Okay, in the last video we looked at having a couple of lines and then intersecting those lines with transversal. So that made some angles and we spent some time naming those. So we had things like corresponding angles, alternate interior, and all of that sort of thing. So today we are going to do more like we did in the exploration activity we did in class, and those lines that are being intersected by a transversal are going to be parallel, and that is when the more interesting stuff happens. So there's only really a couple rules. If two parallel lines are intersected by a transversal, then all of the angles are either congruent or they're supplementary. There's no other options. Now that's not assuming we've got other weird angles or intersections going on, but I'm just talking about the 8 angles that are made by that transversal around the parallel lines. They are going to be congruent or supplementary. That's the only options. So they're either the same or we need to take something and add it up so that it's 180. Let's see what I mean here. Okay, so let's go through all of our types of angles and then we will actually do some examples here. All right, so corresponding angles, if two parallel lines, so I guess let me mark that first. This does only work if the two lines that are being cut by the transversal are parallel. Parallel lines. That's what the unit's all about. But then some interesting stuff does happen. So corresponding angles are congruent. Alternate interior angles are congruent. Alternate exterior angles are congruent. Same side interior angles are supplementary. And same side exterior angles are also supplementary. So maybe notice here our pair of alternate angles, so our alternate interior and alternate exterior, those are both congruent, while our consecutive are supplementary. The only thing that you have to be careful about here is the congruent corresponding angles, because those are consecutive kind of, but that's got one angle interior and one angle exterior, so it's its own thing. So we have to keep those separate. But in general, if they're on alternate sides of the transversal and there's an actual relation, then they're congruent. If they're on the same side, then they're supplementary. So let's practice this a little bit. So we want to identify the angle pair here as either congruent or supplementary and give our reasoning. So let's go through a couple of these. So the first one, we've got angle 3 and angle 5 right here. So these are on opposite sides of the transversal and they're both inside the parallel lines. So these are congruent by alternate interior. So that's all we're doing here. We're just picking out some angles and we're seeing if they're congruent or they're supplementary. Okay, angle 1 and angle 8, so these are both on the left side of the transversal and they're both outside of the parallel lines, so these are supplementary by consecutive exterior. So same side of the transversal, outside the parallel lines. Alright, let's look at 2 and 6. 2 and 6. So we can look at them and just say they're congruent, and this is the one that we do have to be careful with. These are in the same relative position. They're both top right of these locuses of angles here, so they are congruent by corresponding. So 2 and 6 are corresponding angles. They're in the same relative position. All right, let's look at 1 and 7. So angle 1 right here, angle 7 down here, they are on opposite sides of the transversal and they're both outside the parallel lines, so they are congruent by alternate exterior. Okay, now this one's for you to try. Let's look at angle 4 and 5, and what do we see? Okay, these are supplementary because they are inside. They're same side interior, supplementary. So they're both on the left side of the transversal. They're inside the parallel lines. So supplementary by same side or consecutive interior. Okay, next one for you to try. Let's look at angle 3 and angle 7. Okay, angle 3 and angle 7, those are both acute angles. They both are congruent to each other, and they're in the same bottom right relative position. So they are corresponding angles. So congruent by corresponding. Okay, let's look at angle 5 and angle 6. So angle 5 and angle 6, they're on the same locus of angles, so we don't actually need the other parallel line. This is always true. This goes back to Unit 1. These are supplementary by linear pair. And then finally, let's look at angle 2 and angle 4. Okay, angle 2 and angle 4, both obtuse angles here. They are both congruent, and this is another one where we have to go back to Unit 1 because these are vertical angles. We don't need the parallel line here. Just that one intersection is good enough. Okay, so that's identifying them as congruent or supplementary. Let's go down here and let's try to find some actual measures here. So we are given that the measure of angle 1 is 65 degrees. So I'm going to make a slightly smaller font here, and I'm going to say that this is 65 degrees. So that is my angle 1 right here. Now, because this sign right here, these two arrows mean that these lines are parallel, that means that everything is going to be either supplementary or congruent. So it's either going to be 65 degrees or it's going to be 180 minus 65. And if we figure that out real quick, 180 minus 65 is equal to 115. So everything in here is going to be either 65 degrees or 115 degrees. So I'll do a couple and then I'll have you do some. All right, let's first look at angle 2. And if we go there, then that one is not the same angle as angle 1. So if it's not the same angle as angle 1, then it must be 115 degrees. So 115 degrees, and we need a reason for this. And as we go along here, there's going to be lots of reasons you can use, but we don't have as many to start with here. So my reason for this is going to be it's a linear pair with angle 1. So as we get more angles in here, we might be able to use things like corresponding or alternate interior. But right now we've only got angle 1 and angle 2. So I'll go ahead and put angle 2 in here also, 115 degrees. And I probably won't do that for all of these, but that just gives us an idea. Okay, let's move along to angle 3. And angle 3 is going to be right here, and I'm going to actually compare this to angle 1. So it's the same angle as angle 1, so it's 65 degrees. I could say that it's a linear pair with angle 2, which we just found, but instead of that, I'm going to say it is vertical angles with angle 1, just to mix things up a little bit. All right, angle 4, we are looking at this angle right here, and there's a few different options we can do here. It's obviously one of the 115 degree angles because it's a big one. It's an obtuse angle. And we've got a few different reasons that we can use here. I think I'll just go ahead and say it's a linear pair with angle 3. Okay, let's look at angle 5, and I will have you do this. Is angle 5 65 or 115 degrees? Okay, angle 5, just by looking at it, even if we didn't know, and those are our two options, is pretty obviously 65 degrees. So we'll put that in there, and then go ahead and type in the box a reason why. Okay, I don't know what you typed. But I'm going to just say that it is same side interior with angle 4. So there was multiple reasons we could have used. We could have used like corresponding with angle 1. We could have used alternate interior with angle 3. But I'm going to go with one of the supplementary pairs and say it is same side interior with angle 4. So these two have to add up to 180. Okay, now angle 6. Is that one 115 or is it 65? Okay, this one is pretty obviously, by looking at the picture, 115 degrees. And now in the box, give me a reason why. Okay, there's lots of reasons you could have chosen at this point. We've got lots of information. I'm just going to say that this is corresponding with angle 2. You could have had a different reason that's equally correct. That's just the one that I happen to be using right now. Okay, a couple more to go. Angle 7, 115 or 65? Angle 7 is obviously 65 degrees. It's an acute angle. And let's see, we need a reason here. So let's say that it is, how about its alternate exterior? We haven't used that one yet. Alternate exterior with angle 1. There were other options you could have chosen there, but I'm going to go with alternate exterior. And then finally, how big is angle 8? 115 or 65? Okay, it's obtuse. It's obviously 115. And we need a reason, and we've got tons to choose from here. I'll just go back to the vertical angles, and I'll say it's vertical with angle 6. All right, so your work next time will have you doing more of the same, finding some angle measures. The puzzles will get a little bit more complicated than they've been, but try to think of it like putting together a puzzle. Sometimes you have to move around different pieces to find what you need to do next. You might not be able to go in order 1 through 8 like we did here. We might have to bounce around a little bit, but I'll leave you to that. And make sure you bring me any questions, and I'll see you in class.